call the April 26, 2021 special board meeting to order. I need a motion for suspension of the rules to suspend the rules of procedure allowed for the attendance of legislators telephonically. Do I have a second? Well, first, who makes the motion again? Mr. Perkins makes a motion, seconded by Mr. Lightfoot. And Mr. Tony Arquette. And anyone opposed? Anyone? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, now let's go on to the roll call, Kelly.
Reagan. Forsythe.
Here.
Lightfoot.
Here.
Sheridan.
Here.
Smithers.
Here.
Denisha.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Akers.
Here.
Bay.
Here.
Haggard.
Here.
Biacco.
Here.
Burke.
Here.
Arquette.
Here.
Terminelli.
Here.
Curran.
Here.
15 present.
Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Motion to approve it by Mr. Fay, seconded by Mr. Smithers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Presentation of resolutions. We have Mr. Lightfoot.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the Axelon Services Corporation for recruiting services to assist with the replacement of the Director of Public Health and modifying the 2021 budget for the Public Health Department and move for its adoption.
Seconded by Ms. Kern. Any discussion? Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question's for Ruth, and the position's been advertised for a while. Have we had any applicants yet?
Can I answer that?
Go ahead, Ruth.
So far, we have 3 applicants for the position.
Okay, and I guess that's all I need. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? I see someone's hand up on the screen. Okay, that was, all in favor?
Aye.
No,
Opposed?
it's a roll call.
Is it a roll call?
Yeah.
Yeah, modifying. No? Yes, modifying. Roll call vote.
It's just coming up, sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Smithers.
Yes.
Denisha.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Akers.
Yes.
Bay.
Yes.
Haggard.
Yes.
Biacco.
Yes.
Burke.
Yes.
Arquette.
Yes.
Terminelli.
Yes.
Curran.
Yes.
Reagan.
Yes.
Forsythe.
Yes.
Lightfoot.
Yes.
Sheridan.
Yes,
15 yes.
carried. There's no further business. We'll adjourn. Any further business? Adjourn.
Okay, it's 5:30. I'd like to call this Finance Committee agenda or meeting together. Approval of tonight's agenda, moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Perkins. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? That's carried. I will mention that there will be 2 substitute resolutions. Will be at 3H and also for 10A. 10A will have to be removed off the table. How about approval of the minutes for March 22nd? Moved by Mr. Sheridan, seconded by Ms. Curran and Mr. Denisha. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. First resolution concerns the highway with Mr. Chambers. And that resolution is modifying the 2021 budget for the Department of Highways for an increase in the Capital Highway Improvement Program known as CHIPS funding. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Perkins. Mr. Chambers.
Thank you. The state budget included an increase of 1.575 million in CHIPS funding that can be used for various projects at the Department of Highways. My proposal in this resolution would be to put 1.125 million into paving materials and $450,000 of additional funds into bridge projects.
Any questions for Mr. Chambers concerning this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Our next resolution is approving the New York State Department of Transportation Supplemental Agreement Number 2 for construction/construction inspection for the St. Lawrence County Bridge Preservation Project of 2 bridges, bins number 3340-980, bin number 3341-780, pin number 7753-96. Moved by Mr. Denisha, second by Mr. Smithers. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, thank you. Here just a little while ago, a couple months ago, New York State DOT asked us to move into the final design and construction phase for this project. Therefore, it was not included in the 2021 budget due to not finding out till this late winter that they were possibly going to fund this project for construction in 2021. So this resolution provides for the funding for construction and construction inspection of these 2 bridges. The County Road 27, just for a point of reference, is the bridge located next to the Thule Pond Road in the town of Russell. The other structure is Island Branch Road at River Road in the town of Fallon.
Any questions for Mr. Chambers? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next resolution is authorizing the chair to award and sign contracts for the St. Lawrence County Bridge Preservation Projects, Island Branch Road Bridge over the Island Branch of the Oswegatchie River, bin number 3340-980, and County Route 27 Bridge over the South Branch of the Grass River, bin number 3341-780, pin number 7753-96, and modifying the 2021 budget for the Department of Highways. Moved by Mr. Denisha and second by Mr. Smithers. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, again, thank you. These resolutions here together, the one that you just considered, this one and another one, all are concerning the same 2 bridges. This is awarding the contract to a contractor to do the construction in the field, Slate Hill Constructors Incorporated, for an amount just under 1.3 million. The local share of this project is 5%.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Chambers? All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next resolution is modifying the 2021 budget for the Department of Highways for insurance recovery funds from a total dump truck. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Perkins, Ms. Curran, and Ms. Fiacco. Mr. Chambers.
Yes. Unfortunately, on March 12th, we had a motor vehicle accident. Another vehicle ran a stop sign and totaled one of our dump trucks. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured in the mishap. And this results in an insurance recovery that I did not budget for. But it also made the necessity to replace that truck. So the proposal is to lease a Ford 550 to replace this medium-duty truck that was lost due to this vehicular accident.
Okay. Any questions concerning this resolution from Mr. Chambers? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Our next resolution is approving supplemental agreement number 1 with Barton Judas DPC for additional final design services for the Ready project at Northumberland Street Bridge to the town of Morristown, bid number 3341-380. Moved by Mr. Perkins, second by Ms. Smithers, Mr. Sheridan, and Ms. Curran. Mr. Chambers.
Yes. The project in the town of Morristown was not envisioned when we put the engineering out to consideration and proposed a budget. But as we got into this project, we discovered that the pump station would need to be added on the opposite side of the bay once the bridge was removed. The existing vacuum system was not strong enough to take the bow that's going to be put in the sewer line under the bay. So another pump station and some significant amount of sewer line needs to be added. So this increased the design need on this project to the amount of $47,000. This project is, as I said, a Ready project, and so is primarily funded by that program, and basically a 5% cost again for St. Lawrence County.
Any questions for Mr. Chambers? Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don, we talked about this last month regarding the, I think the sewage line was an additional cost to this project. And Mr. Lightfoot had mentioned that the town of Morristown or village of Morristown, town of Morristown, was going to reimburse. Has there been a resolution passed by Morristown yet saying that any additional costs they were picking up?
Yes, it has.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Yes, it has. The town of Morristown has passed a resolution. Actually, the New York State required that to make sure that that any additional costs would be covered, and actually had to provide financial statements from the town to DASNY to support that as well.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions concerning this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Our next resolution is authorizing the chair to sign application documents and a contract with New York State Department of Transportation for Bridge New York funding. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Denisha and Ms. Curran. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, thank you. This is another round of Bridge New York funding that is coming up. And Bridge New York is unlike the standard methodology of funding bridge projects. Bridge New York is a program that we will be competing against other municipalities. And actually our planning department is helping the Department of Highway at this point to work on the proposals. With this resolution, basically asking for the support of this legislature on the 3 projects that we have listed in the resolution. One is County Road 35, which is currently approaching final design. The other is Lazy River Bridge in the town of Russell, and the County Road 27 bridge in the town of Fine. It's just off State Highway 3 at the very southern end of County Road 27 for that one, for reference. We did have highway staff myself and highway staff met with New York State DOT planning office to go through the inventory of bridges that St. Lawrence County owns. And New York State DOT felt that these would be our most viable candidates for achieving funds through the Bridge New York program. So New York State DOT Region 7 Planning Division supports these selections, as well as I do.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Chambers? Don, how much money is pooled in that Bridge New York funding for the state?
I believe it's 200 million.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next resolution is approving a supplemental agreement with Delta Engineers, Architects, and Land Surveyors, DPC, for construction inspection CI services for the St. Lawrence County Bridge Preservation, 2 bridges. Bid number 334980, bid number 3341-780, bid number 775396. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Denisha and Mr. Lightfoot. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, thank you. You had 2 other resolutions that you considered this evening. One was the funding from New York State to fund the 2 preservation bridge project. The next one was to award the contract to the contractor to build the structures. This contract is to do the construction, inspection, and administration. In order to be in compliance with the federal regulations, we must have full-time inspection on the site in order to maintain our federal and state funding. And at this point, the staff that I normally use for inspection services within the department are already committed to multiple projects. So it is necessary for us to utilize a consultant. This consultant was the design engineer, is a pre-approved engineering firm on the local design services agreement with New York State DOT, and was solicited as through that program.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Chambers? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is our substitute resolution. Those of you at home, you should have it that Ms. Kelly sent to you. And those that are here, it should be on your desk. And that resolution is determining that the construction of the LaFavor Road, Snowmobile Bridge in the town of Russell in St. Lawrence County, New York, will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact. Moved by Mr. Denisha, second by Mr. Lightfoot and Ms. Curran and Mr. Sheridan. Mr. Chambers.
Yes. The backup, this resolution is for, as Mr. Akers said, for stating that there will be no, resulting in no significant adverse environmental impact for installing a snowmobile bridge at LaFavor Road. Back in 2014, the existing structure on LaFavor Road was removed due to structural deterioration, and the temporary bridge that is up at Jones Road, one of the spans, is proposed to be reused at this location. So this is going along with with the seeker documentation that we've provided as backup is available for the board to review. We worked with Gary Boich, our environmental attorney, as well as Steve Button, our county attorney, to review the documentations, and Mr. Boich has concurred with my staff that this is the appropriate language and concurs with our findings.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Chambers? Mr. Denisha.
Not a question, Mr. Chairman, but I really want to draw everyone's attention to the first whereas. That this is to reestablish the LaFavor Road as a corridor snowmobile trail. I believe in 2011 that this trail was part of the St. Lawrence County Snowmobile Trail that included the LaFavor Road Bridge. But as Mr. Chambers said, when the LaFavor Road Bridge was taken out in 2014, we lost that link. And this is to help reestablish that the snowmobile trail.
What body of water does that cross?
That is Elm Creek.
Elm Creek?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Mr. Arquette?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to commend legislator Denisha for bringing this forward. It was certainly a great idea, and thanks to Superintendent Chambers for the legwork on it. It's greatly appreciated, greatly significant to that area for snowmobiling. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arquette. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Chambers? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next resolution is authorizing the chair to sign an amended agreement with J.E. Sheehan Contracting Corporation to relocate a temporary bridge from Jones Road over West Branch of St. Regis River project to the LaFavor Road over Elm Creek and modifying the 2021 budget for the Department of Highways. Moved by Mr. Denisha, second by Mr. Smithers. Mr. Chambers.
Yes. Thank you. I first want to point out that the funds are not coming from the Department of Highway funds, that it's actually coming from your fund balance, due to the fact that chips cannot be used on a snowmobile bridge. The Jones Road project is part of the highway project and is funded 100% by state CHIPS funds. Therefore, needing us to transfer money to this account to pay for the resetting of the snowmobile bridge. So I just wanted to point that out, that it cannot come out of highway funds, it needs to come out of another fund. But this, we would be doing this basically by what's called a force account. It's time and material with an estimated cost not to go over $25,000. The design would have to be relooked at and certified. I've already worked with the engineer and said that they can certify this crossing. So there won't be any issue, but still need to get it in black and white. So I'll have a little bit of engineering services that'll come out of that $25,000.
Mr. Arquette, did you have a comment or question?
I'd just like to be added as a co-sponsor if I could, please.
Certainly.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Arquette, you'll have to raise your hand higher for whatever reason. Dylan has got the cameras right in front of your face, so I think if you raise them high, we can see you. Okay.
I have alligator arms, Mr. Chairman. Alligator arms.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did you have any comments you wanted to make, or you're all set?
I am all set.
Okay, oh, Mr. Perkins.
I'll be abstaining due to my employment.
Okay, so noted, Kelly.
I don't think we took a vote yet, did we?
Excuse me?
Not yet.
Okay, I don't think we took a vote yet.
Oh, first of all, we have to take a vote. Mr. Perkins is abstaining because of his employment. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Next up, for our Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, we have Barb Lajoie. And the resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Workforce Development Board to assign the task of the one-stop network operator to the WIOA finance staff member in the One Stop Career Center. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Mr. Perkins and Ms. Sheridan and Ms. Curran. Barb, are you with us?
I am. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are well. This position is required by Department of Labor. We had issued an RFP and gotten no response. It is also permissible under Department of Labor guidelines to use WIOA-funded staff for this particular position, which we are currently doing. The problem is that the contract is expiring. It is a not to exceed $6,000 and funded with WIOA funds. It would be effective July 1st, 21, and be renewable every year through 2024.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Lajoie? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Next up is we have the St. Lawrence County Industrial Development Agency with Patrick Kelly. The resolution is approval of the issuance of revenue bonds by the St. Lawrence County Industrial Development Agency Civic Development Corporation for Clarkson University. Moved by Mr. Denisha, second by Mr. Smithers, Mr. Curran, Mr. Arquette. Mr. Kelly.
I will point out, IRS requirements mandate that before the IDA or the IDA Civic Development Corporation can issue tax exempt bonds, we have to have the approval of our sponsoring municipality, which is St. Lawrence County, as you're all aware. We had a public hearing for the project this morning. The only comment was that we pointed out, if people haven't seen it, there was a recent report from the Center for Governmental Research indicating that Clarkson delivers about $347 million in economic impact to the North Country. That's measured obviously by its institutional footprint, its employment, research and development activities, as well as expenditures of students and other visitors. The institution has over 4,000 students, over 730 employees. By providing access to lower interest taxes and bond financing, we assist them in being competitive with the over 4,000 other institutions of higher learning in the United States. I think it's clear, obviously, education is a huge sector of our economy. We have done over 10 bond issues with Clarkson over the years, representing over $100 million of investment. This project is primarily a refinancing of earlier bond issues that were done in 2011 and 2012, as the resolution indicates. It was for improvements to the Morehouse, the Woodstock Village, some general infrastructure improvements on campus and some lab space. I always point out our final whereas that indicates that the bonds are not an obligation either of St. Lawrence County or of the issuer, the IDA or the IDA. This is called a conduit bond issue that enables us to convey our tax exempt status onto the bonds so that they are able to charge a lower interest rate, therefore providing Clarkson with a more competitive debt service structure and a better financing situation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Any questions or comments for Mr. Kelly? All right, all those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I did want to say, and I mentioned it during the pre-finance meeting, that I made the comments to Mr. Kelly. The IDA report is in your mailboxes if you haven't got it. And it was really instrumental in looking at it and the number of projects that the IDA had accomplished. And not only that the IDA was out in front early with the COVID, reassuring the businesses that they were willing to work with them and provide assistance. And I think that was very helpful, Mr. Kelly, in pursuing those ventures to assure the business community that we were here to help. And I want to tell you my appreciation.
Thank you, Chairman Akers. I will say there was so much information moving so quickly. People have heard me say this before, whether it was the internet or news stories, webinars, friends and neighbors, there was all kinds of information coming very quickly. And we tried to be a voice in people's ears where we were actually making direct contact and trying to help the businesses and the employers understand the various programs. And that's going on. In a normal time, we interact with the Small Business Development Center or the Chamber or the Cooperative Extension on a weekly or bi-weekly basis every day. And it continues to be every day. And it's been a really strong partnership of the service providers, including in the local communities. And the county obviously has led the way by putting together the reopening task force and by, I think, it is remarkable the access to information and resources we've had in the county compared to some of the stories I hear from elsewhere in the state where there's been a disconnect between the public health response and the economic development response. And I think the county has done an extremely proactive and strong job of making sure that efforts are united. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Reagan?
Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kelly, during the height of the COVID problem, the IDA contacted quite a few companies and offered to allow them to forego their loan payments for a period of time to help them with their cash flow situation during the shutdown and during the what was a very slow economic period in the county. But how many companies did you guys assist in that process?
We have a portfolio of about 60 outstanding loans or leases at any given time, and about a third of them took advantage of the moratorium. Represented about 4 million of our 8 million or so in outstanding loan balances. So it was obviously some of the larger ones because it was, a third of the borrowers and half of the outstanding amount. And the biggest issue back then, I think, was the fear of the unknown. I mean, as the early stages of the pause and the call it shutdown, I guess, were happening, nobody really knew what the impact was going to be on specific businesses or what kind of assistance programs were going to be available and how quickly. So that was something we tried to do, and we coordinated that with our regional loan providers and our other economic development public lending partners, both inside the county and on a regional basis. And I think the help that was just one less thing for somebody to worry about when they're worried about no customers walking in the door or not knowing what their supply chain is or how they're going to safely reopen. So it was, and I'm pleased to report everybody is back on regular payments. And I think I've told, and I don't want to make your meeting last forever here, but had somebody told me what the 14 months would look like, with the impact on businesses and on customers and on institutions, I would have been a lot more of a doomsayer about the kind of shape we'd have been in after a year or 14 months. So the resiliency of our employers, their workers, in the local economy has been pretty impressive when you look at everything everybody's been through, at least in my perspective.
And your staff was very proactive in reaching out to a lot of companies in helping them to get permission from the state to continue operations and declared as essential services, which allowed us to keep an awful lot of manufacturers continuing to operate without a huge break in continuity.
Yeah, you may recall over a year ago there was the essential business designations, and it was, the process was, all this was new for everybody, obviously, so the process was somewhat unclear. But you're right, reaching out and connecting the manufacturers in particular with New York State to try to get guidance and comfort when people were making determinations about how their business may qualify to be essential. And obviously the fear is when a business closes, you hold your breath until things come back to normal and it reopens and gets functioning back in any kind of normal manner. So obviously we didn't want to see large operations in particular that have expensive shutdowns and even more expensive and prohibitive startups be impacted by a pause that we didn't know how long was going to last. So and I have to point out, that effort was shared with the chamber, with the cooperative extension, with the Small Business Development Center, with the local economic developers. There were many people making many calls. And I will say now to the representatives, if you are talking with businesses in your community, constituents, and they have questions about any of the programs that are out there, please let us know or send them to us. We've called somewhere between 600 and 700 businesses directly, but you still miss people. We've run our ads, we've tried to build the awareness, we've tried to leverage the network of development partners that we have around the county and in the region, but it still is. I am confused, having tried to follow the bouncing ball on the various programs from one version to the next, and it is a very, very difficult position to be in if you're trying to run a business, struggling to make ends meet or to meet your safety standards, and people don't have the ability to research the differences in different federal programs, and do I qualify for this yet, or this still, or am I do I qualify for the shuttered venue grant or the restaurant restoration fund? So the group of service providers, and primarily the Small Business Development Center, has done a really commendable job of trying to help navigate companies through the different channels and access what they have at their disposal, and try not to waste time on things for which they do not qualify. So it's every bit as engaged in a challenging effort now as it was a year ago. There's still new programs coming out. There's new rules and regulations. So if you run into a business or an entrepreneur and they have a question and you don't know what to do with them, please send them to us or call me and we will reach out to them.
Well, thank you, Patrick. Thank you for your leadership and your board's direction. Mr. Forsyth has a comment, I believe.
I don't want to get his bubble too big, but Patrick, I want to thank you. A friend of mine, fellow business owner, I reached out to you last week for just this scenario. And let me just tell you, he's very impressed and very thankful for the work of the IDA. He didn't know if he was eligible for anything. You steered him in the right direction, and I really appreciate that. So thanks for the good work. And I encourage anyone that runs into anyone with an issue to steer them that way. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Forsyth. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody. Have a nice night.
Next up is our public health. We have Jolene Munger, and it's authorizing the chair to sign a one-year contract extension with First Student Inc. for preschool special education transportation services. Moved by Ms. Curran, second by Mr. Sheridan and Mr. Smithers, sorry. Jolene?
Thank you. So we are putting forth a resolution to extend our current contract for 1 year. The contract does have the option for 2 one-year extensions. So this would be the second of those. So based on current circumstances and looking at the current market and what contractors are available, we would like to utilize the second of 2 extensions for our existing contract while renewing efforts to explore contract options moving forward.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Munger? Mrs. Haggard?
Ms. Munger, I don't know if it's your responsibility to go through the contract or if that's left up to the county attorney. I've asked this before about other bus services. You may not know, or he may know if he's the one reviewing the contracts. Do these buses have cameras on them?
I feel like they, I don't know if all of them do. I know some of them do with First Student.
Okay. And can we ask that they have them? I mean, I don't think it's that big of an investment for the company, and this is a pretty good contract for them. And I just feel like protecting kids of this age who are being transported for special education services, we may find that it would behoove everybody to have cameras on the buses. I don't know, Jolene, if that's a question for you or for the county attorney.
I can find out. I don't know if Steve has any additional information.
Mrs. Haggard, I will tell you that the negotiations and the history with First Student is a long and storied history that I would be more than happy to discuss, but a large portion of it, because it is related to ongoing negotiations associated with First Student for the continuation of the contract, which the resolution before you is for the authorization, I believe should probably take place in executive because it could impact the county's position with respect to those negotiations. But your question with respect to the cameras on the buses, Jolene is correct. Not all of the buses do come fitted with cameras. Some of them do. But to add an additional provision to the contract may prove to be a little bit difficult. And if you don't mind, bear with me and I'll be more than happy to explain in executive session.
Okay, the reason I'm making this point, Mr. Chairman, is that this is a very vulnerable population. These are young special ed students, and I would hope that we would have the protection of having cameras on the buses, but I hear you, Mr. Button, and I'll reserve my other questions for that time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Haggard. Anyone else? Mr. Reagan.
I was wondering if you could find out the answer to this question. I don't expect, you may not have an answer right offhand. I was contacted by a U.S. citizen with a U.S. passport who has been in Canada and who wants to return to the United States and wants to know whether or not they can get a vaccination if they don't have a current New York driver's license.
Mr. Reagan, how is this related to the resolution?
It's not.
Okay, we'll take that up at another time then.
All right, then I'll email you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So any more questions concerning the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Vacancy Review Committee.
Yes, there are two departments to be considered this evening. The first one is for solid waste. I am not sure if Don made it home yet.
He's probably on the road.
I would think so. So we can go to the county attorney first. And he could speak to his vacancy. Steve, do you want to go ahead and I'll see if we can get Don on to follow.
I'll be more than happy to. The vacancy that you have before you is associated with the deputy county attorney position. If you'll recall, at the last meeting, Mr. McGahan appeared before you and indicated that he was going to be having a vacancy in his office, and it was connected to the vacancy in my office. My deputy county attorney has now served faithfully for the past 5 years, but has expressed a desire to return to her proverbial roots within indigent defense. There was an opportunity potentially for an employee swap. Essentially, one of the assistant public defenders would come down and become the new deputy county attorney, and Miss Appleby would return to the public defender's office. Now, originally, when I brought this before the vacancy committee, my plan had been to present it to you as a vacancy fill for a deputy county attorney. But my intention at this point is, in fact, to convert pursuant to the provisions of County Law Section 502 to all assistant county attorney positions. If you recall, last month there was a resolution that created certain assistant county attorney positions. Under a provision within County Law Section 502, it references assistant county attorneys, but it does not reference a deputy county attorney position. Deputies are actually created under County Law Section 400, but they're unnecessary within the county attorney structure because the hierarchy of succession is actually spelled out within County Law Section 502. So my intention is for this position to be converted to an assistant county attorney position, just like the other assistant county attorney positions that have now been created here. And for, if you granted, the position to be filled by a transfer from the public defender's office. The individual that would be filling the position is a younger attorney, very accomplished so far for his age, very astute, and I have great faith in his abilities to assist county as well as my office moving forward.
Any questions for Mr. Button? Okay. Ruth, you could probably represent Mr. Chambers on these positions. So we move on. He's
Probably en route.
lives in Hanover, right?
I can easily speak to the first two, and maybe he'll be on by the last, or we can revisit the last. I just am not familiar with it. The first two positions included on your agenda this evening are the sanitary landfill attendants. And some of you may recall over 2 years ago now, there was a move to add these in cooperation with the DEC to provide temporary full-time positions for the season to assist at our transfer stations to provide education and outreach about recycling and the importance of diverting from the waste stream. So due to COVID last year, these positions were never requested to be filled. However, this year, they'd like to move forward with the landfill attendants and have those, I believe at our larger volume transfer stations, if I recall correctly, it was Ogdensburg and Messina, but I'll verify that, to have those in place for this season coming up. So that is the situation with both of those positions. The heavy equipment operator is one of the 15 positions at solid waste. This appears to be a resignation. I apologize, I don't have my notes in front of me. But we certainly, Don will be signing back on. If there's any questions on this one, I can certainly have him speak to that.
Mr. Forsyth has a question.
Thank you, Ruth. And yeah, it was Ogdensburg and Messina, as I was on the vacancy review. My question is, will the responsibilities of these two, I went to the dump Saturday. My son and I went to the dump and we took a dump trailer in Ogdensburg. And my concern is the gate. The gate, so no one falls into the dumpster divers, becomes a dumpster diver. And when we backed up, the gate was open. When we left, the guy working the compactor yelled out to make sure you shut the gate, which he must have missed the one before us. But I'm hoping that these individuals that are helping people get rid of their stuff would also help educate them on the gate itself, so we don't have any more dumpster divers. Would that be okay to assume, or what do you think?
Certainly can bring that to their attention. I think they will be working in that area. So I think there's certainly, a safety mention, or for folks traveling up through, just to remind them of the importance of that. Certainly
Absolutely.
Can occur.
Yeah, because it kind of hit close to home the other day when I was there. So, okay, yep.
Happy to follow up.
Okay, any other questions concerning vacancies? Seeing none, we'll move on to the county administrator's report. Our first resolution is authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the Rural Law Center of New York for incident appellate representation. Moved by Mr. Lightfoot, second by Mr. Smithers and Mr. Perkins.
So this resolution provides an additional year opportunity for the county to contract with the Rural Law Center for appeals. That is not work that we maintain in-house. We also have the availability now of indigent legal services funds available for the criminal side of those appeals. So that is hopefully a way that we can offset the cost of these. In 2020, we spent $200,308. So we missed the mark just barely. But we have had great success. The only appeals that are not handled by the Rural Law Center are parole appeals, and those are assigned out by the 3rd Department. I can get you a total on that if you're interested, but the lion's share is between criminal and family court appeals that happen and are assigned to the Rural Law Center for the county.
Any questions for Mrs. Doyle? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Our next resolution is appointing the risk manager as corporate compliance officer for St. Lawrence County. Moved by Mr. Denisha, second by Ms. Curran and Mr. Smithers.
This resolution has been somewhat some time coming, long overdue. I think looking at the role of the compliance officer was really revisited with the role of assistant administrator. Dylan has done a great deal of work pulling together the role of the compliance officer and now taking on some of the duties associated with purchasing. We're transferring these responsibilities fitting to the risk manager to pick up and carry. For the most part, we're starting with our areas of requirement, which is in community services and public health, but our hope is to expand and ensure that compliance is across the county. And this is an avenue where that conversation can occur.
Any questions concerning this resolution for the county administrator? Mr. Denisha.
Question. Mr. Chairman, thank you. On the, now therefore be it resolved, Board of Legislators, or excuse me, be it further resolved, the chair designates compliance officer to report directly to the county administrator. That's a change, isn't it? Is it not?
Well, the risk manager sits and lives in the county attorney's office. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, so reporting directly to the county administrator, obviously not eliminating the county attorney from the conversation, but to bring those issues directly to the county administrator so they can be given to the board.
Okay, and that was my concern, was that he's going to serve two masters. You can't.
Yeah, I don't anticipate an issue there at all, just to provide the reports.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions concerning the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Our next resolution is authorizing grade changes to the titles of assistant county attorneys for St. Lawrence County. Moved by Mr. Smithers, second by Ms. Curran.
This resolution provides guidance as based on the resolution passed last month and following the vacancy review and request by the county attorney a few moments ago. So what this provides for is new assignment from Band 4, which is currently where the title of Assistant County Attorney exists, and moving 3 of those to Band 5 and 2 of those to Band 6. Not unlike the way that it's handled in the district attorney's office, where we have 4 assistant district attorneys in one band and 4 in another. What it provides for is a larger band for salary negotiations when attorneys are being hired, but it also provides in this situation for the attorneys moving into these roles to see no hindrance to their compensation. So it brings them in, holds them harmless. And in fact, the 2 that will move to Band 5, Step 2, will see a very modest increase of, I believe, $594 each. So that brings them to the first place they're held harmless in the new band. Questions?
Okay. Any questions concerning the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. So now we have our first quarter of 2021 financial update. Mrs. Doyle.
So there are, as provided each quarter, 2 summary reports. One is summary of all departments by fund, and the other is summary by department categories. So what we looked at was this year versus last. And as we know, for the most part, the first quarter of 2020 was unremarkable compared to the remainder of 2020. And so when we looked at year-over-year comparison, it was interesting to note that it's almost identical. There's a 4.08% reduction in appropriations, as narrow in salaries as 0.15% reduction for 2021, or in equipment of 0.7%. So pretty close to last year, contractually 1.43% lower than 2020. And overall, in the revenue, 10.15% higher revenue looking at 2021. So overall, in the general fund I'm speaking to, pretty identical. And I think that's what's going to look different to you in the future quarterly reports for the remainder of 2021. It'll be interesting to start looking in the remaining quarters of this year at how that measured. Certainly revenue was hit the remaining quarters of 2021, but all things began in 2020 very similar to this year. So looking at the overall summary report, you've got 7 departments who came in above that magic quarter or 25%, driven mostly at this point by revenue. And we're looking at, areas in social services within 1% of 2020. So overall, we're looking pretty good so far this year. And as we've talked about in the past, the ability that you have in the category report to look at revenue in specific departments is helpful. But also remember, the quarter closes and then the claim or the reimbursement is requested. So often you actually have to wait 2 quarters out to see what that quarter looked like, to make sure we're seeing the revenue attached to those expenses, because it has taken the state anywhere from 30 to 60 to, a couple of years to make us whole on reimbursement associated with expenses that they will provide to us. And to that end, I wanted to share that we've just been reimbursed over these last few weeks $100,000 for a snowplow that we purchased in 2018. So we were very thankful to finally see those funds come in, as well as funds from our first 3 years of the Council at First Appearance grant in indigent defense of $544,000. So we're starting to see some funds move at the state level, which certainly helps. That doesn't add to our fund balance because we had already accounted for it, but it also makes it cash. So certainly things that we're happy to see happen. But I'm also happy to answer any questions related to departments. As you know, we are giving you by fund now the information associated also with capital. So while it may not make a great deal of sense, just looking at the summary report, we can certainly get you additional information if you have questions related to the numbers or the percentages.
Mrs. Haggard has a question.
I don't really have a question. I want to apologize. I did not vote on the resolution C, Mrs. Doyle, but I want to point out to the chair of the meeting tonight that I didn't vote either way, but I don't think I said verbally that I recused from that vote. I'd like to just have that on the record. Thank you very much.
So Mrs. Haggard, you'd like to be recused from the previous vote then, correct?
Which I did not vote on anyway, but I don't think I recused. I was.
Kelly's nodding. She can do that for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mr. Burke.
Well, relating to the assistant county attorneys, are we being reimbursed at the higher level, the 81%, or is it the 66%? Do you know, Ruth?
I can confirm this for you, John, but I believe that the attorneys that are being transferred into these titles will be remaining at the 81%, and the county attorney and the new assistant county attorney in place of the deputy county attorney will be at the 66%. But I can confirm that for you.
Okay. Is it, Ruth, will there be a contract for the legal services? Will there be a contract issued?
We are looking at the way that it is set up in counties who have the county attorney's office provide those services. And at least in one other county that I'm aware of, they do not have that in place, but we are checking on that, John, as we speak. Also, looking back at the contract for support to determine if it's necessary to put the contract in place or with the titles moved over and the work being carried out if that's no longer necessary. So we'll get you an update on that as soon as we hear back.
And if I could, Ruth,
Sure.
Could I get, and I don't know whether this is more appropriate, Kevin, under old or new business, but just wanted an update on where we were with recruitment for caseworkers. Is it okay to ask now, Kevin?
Yeah,
or?
yeah, we can, might as well do it right now, John. Be good with me.
Okay. The latest statistics that came out show that for timely safety assessments, we're 59th in the state. That's out of 64 counties. The percentage of overdue investigations, we're 58th in the state with 47% being overdue. And the percentage of workers with more than 15 CPS investigations, we're second from the bottom. We're 63rd, and with a number of 88%. Now, I know, Ruth, you and Cindy you've been working with Cindy to try to address some of these problems, but I guess it's for me, that data clearly shows that our children in the county are at an increased level of risk because we can't get to the investigations as quickly as we need to, and I'm wondering if you would consider, or if perhaps, and I know you're bringing in a whole bunch of new people, but what about hiring retired people who have on a per diem basis, people who, if they're available, people who have the background and who would be perhaps seasoned employees and available to mentor and some of the brand new employees we're bringing in. It's I really think it's I believe it's a crisis, and it's a serious one because it affects the safety of our children. And I just wanted to have your thoughts on that, Ruth, and if anybody else has comments. But the statistics aren't good. They don't paint a good picture for our response to children in need.
So as far as the staffing component, John, and certainly others, I believe there have been 3 of the 17 positions hired. Start date, I believe, for at least one is in May, but I believe the others are sooner. Also, I think the board has demonstrated support in these 2 areas, prevent and in CPS, by adding more positions than the county has ever had dedicated to this effort. And also, I think part of what's going to happen as a result of creating some additional supervisors for these folks is some additional folks coming in as those folks ascend into leadership roles. Those backfills will come for consideration with regard to the ones we already have. So I think that adds additional folks into consideration, into the training process. And certainly I think looking at, as you suggest, the retired folks is an avenue that I don't believe we've explored, but I'm happy to. And also I believe they have just held another caseworker exam. I can't speak to the total, but I believe that there was a better turnout than the last time the exam was held. And I do believe also that's an exam they can score locally, but I will find that out as well. So I think there are efforts toward getting more boots on the ground to get more folks to assist with the children in care, as well as to move through the transition to tighter timelines with the court and with the children to make sure that those are not missed. So I think that the board has demonstrated support for those statistics you speak to and getting some additional folks hired.
Mr. Arquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir?
John, did you have a follow-up? Would you like to make a follow-up?
Just a quick statement, actually, Kevin. I wanted to make it clear that in no way am I trying to say that our staff aren't doing a great job, because I truly believe they're doing a wonderful job. I think the problem is, and I think we probably all agree, it's in not having enough numbers. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Arquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And those are alarming statistics, obviously, but and this question has been answered. But if you could refresh my memory, from the time that one of these caseworkers is employed from their start date, about how long is it before they are actively working with our needy?
My understanding is the training alone takes 6 to 9 months, and I don't believe they are independent immediately following that. So, one of the areas that we'd like to highlight for the board when we start looking at some of these in a more granular fashion is how much time do they have in for the caseloads that they're carrying, and to make sure that they have the oversight. That's also, I think, why the board supported additional supervision. We'd like to lift with the approach with the pool, the ability to have, that civil service process kind of lifted off of the supervisors over the units, dedicated specifically to just that, bringing in folks, making sure their training is going along as well as possible, because it's a lot to learn. And also in that pool, provide the opportunity, as we previously discussed, to make sure that it's a good fit for them and it's a good fit for us.
Thank you. And I know you're working hard at that. That time frame lends some credibility to the idea of the possibility of, like John said, either some retirees, some folks that could come in and provide immediate help for our kids. Thanks.
And I also have an update on the number. There were 17 who took the exam that was just held, and there are 7 on the current list. So they've been able to, I think, move through quite a few. They'll be scoring here very shortly and be able to continue with their canvas and hiring process.
Okay. Okay.
And also, I have a few other comments. I do have an update for the question about the cameras, and that is that there are cameras on all of the buses. So that's an update on that. And if I could, just a couple of other things. Real quick COVID update. St. Lawrence County, as of 8 o'clock this morning, had a 48.2% vaccination rate, just lagging behind New York State, which is at 52.3%. But overall, the 65 plus population, which we've identified as one of our most vulnerable, is at 75.2%. So I think that certainly is an area that has been well addressed. You may have also seen that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine pause has been lifted, and we do have 100 on hand. So they'll be moving, now that we have permission, to go ahead and get those out as well. And we are moving this week to a more mobile approach. You might have seen advertisements in your local towns. We're going to be in fire departments for periods of time this week. Again, trying to get to folks that's a shorter commute for them, and see if we can't get some additional vaccines out. I understand later this week we should finish up with at least the folks that we know as homebound. Governor Rescue has been outstanding, and we've also had some of our public health staff assist with going out to homes to get those folks vaccinated as well. Also, I understand that the executive orders have been updated. May 6th was the extension date. It is now May 19th. So that also gives us an update as far as our ability to meet in a remote setting. We did receive some census data today at a state level, and that indicates that New York State gained population from 2010 from 19.4 million to 20.2 million. However, it does appear as though the state will still lose 1 congressional seat. We should have more granular data specific to counties, et cetera, by mid-August. And as soon as we have that, we will share that with you. I can tell you, I think Margaret had a question maybe? No, okay. Update on a request. The board voted to move forward with the employee tuition reimbursement program. I do have 2 counties responses so far. My hope is in this next month to be able to pull those together and get you an update on that information. The next item is with regard to the city of Ogdensburg. We met with them again with regard to taxes, foreclosures, and collections. Auctions International, they will be pursuing and running a timeline similar to ours. So we hope that improves visibility for their parcels. And also we were able to talk with them a little bit more in a narrowed fashion about what their interests are. So my hope is that we will be able to pull the consolidation committee back together this week. I'll reach out tomorrow morning to each of you on the committee to schedule a time that works. So that you can also take a look at that, as well as 2 other requests with regard to dispatch services that we've received. And I did want to let you know that we received the first of the payments on the outstanding amount from the city of Ogdensburg for 2018 and 19 in a total of $141,000. That leaves the balance at $684,692. And that's all I have unless there's questions.
Any questions? Mrs. Haggard?
Mrs. Doyle, I don't want to put you on the spot if you can't answer this because it's COVID related. We didn't have a COVID update today. Ms. Fiacco had sent me an article, which I'd seen, about people not getting their second shot. Like people are going in and they think they're bulletproof, so they don't go back and get the second shot. Do we have any statistics in our county as to any percentage of people that aren't going in and getting their second shot of the Pfizer or Moderna that require 2 shots? And if you don't know that, I'll hold my question to the next time we have an update.
So it's 8% nationally, I read myself today, on the 8% nationally that are not getting the second shot.
Okay, but in the county, do we know how we're doing?
I don't have that information, but I'll pose it to Jolene and to Dr. Williams to bring next week.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Burke.
Ruth, speaking of remote locations, remote work, have we done anything more on that? I know it was briefly discussed at last meeting, but do you have any idea what the next steps would be in looking at that and seeing where it might be advantageous to the county and to employees?
We continue to look at remote work. As you'll recall, employees returned to work last Wednesday and have gotten back to, I think, the routine associated with coming to the office. As many, I think, remember, the 50% was in place since November. We're continuing to work on a policy, and we're looking hopefully to be able to have some conversations with the unions about that. But certainly, as you know, with 7 unions, some of our unions, the work that they do, law enforcement, corrections, wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for all of their members, but certainly an area we're continuing to pursue, John.
Thanks, Ruth.
Okay, any other questions for Mrs. Doyle? Okay, let's move on to the committee reports. First up, Cornell Cooperative Extension, Mr. Denisha.
Mr. Chairman, we had our last meeting on March 23rd, and I'd actually given a report on that. I think the thing of notice, this is really noteworthy, is and this is a joint effort with the Department of Health and Cornell Cooperative Extension in regards to getting farm employees vaccinated. It was, when they were doing the vaccinations with Johnson & Johnson, and when that got switched, they had to make a quick handoff on that. With Moderna, again, that's something that the Sheriff's Department played a big role in. It's great teamwork. It's great teamwork between Cooperative Extension, our Public Health, our Sheriff's Department, our farming community. And the other thing that really made it easier was that we had translators. Because a lot of the folks, they weren't able to read. So actually having someone tell them in their native tongue made a huge difference. So
It's a great cooperative effort. Wildlife Management Board, Ms. Curran.
We have not met since, I think before COVID started. We did have the one update to just the deer management plan and whatnot, and nothing since then.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Curran. Fisheries Advisory Board, Ms. Terminelli.
We also have not met.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Terminelli. Mr. Smithers, the Governor Fair Board.
Yes, Fair Board did meet April 6th. They changed the location to the community center to enable more attendance, not be so packed into the former spot. And they have a number of events planned. Some of them are scheduled to be changed depending on how the state guidelines go regarding the maximum number of attendees. There's storage moving out to enable some reconstruction projects. They have a Boy Scout weekend planned June 18th to the 20th, and they've been told it's okay for overnight camping after June 1st, so that's acceptable. The county fair plans are proceeding forward cautiously. They have definite plans. They don't know about some events because they would require a larger attendance permissibility in order to have those things. So scheduled for us to kick off the fair August 2nd with our meeting there on the fairgrounds. And the fair will run from then through the 8th. They have interest in having a truck pull later in September or October. That date's to be determined. There's a pumpkin festival event planned for the last Sunday in September. Next meeting is scheduled for first Tuesday of next month.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smithers. You're up next for Highway and Solid Waste.
Okay, Highway Committee did meet this afternoon and discussed a meeting that Don Chambers had with the town of Potsdam regarding the construction of the building for storage on the town property, and legislator Denisha attended that meeting also. And the town has some concerns over that possible construction. So due to those concerns, that construction is kind of on hold to see where we want to go with that. The recommendation from Mr. Chambers is to proceed with construction of the projects in Lisbon and Russell and put those bids out. And the other one in Potsdam is kind of on hold to decide where they want to go with that. I don't know how specific you want to get, but that's
Okay.
okay.
All right.
I mentioned the fact that asphalt supply is at a low, and they're expected to have a price increase, which will affect the amount of planned paving projects. And he certainly is pleased with the increase in the CHIPS funding from the state. That's all for now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smithers. Industrial Development Agency, Mr. Reagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The IDA met recently, approved the issuance of the industrial development, or the civic development bonds for Clarkson University to help them reduce their interest rate on several projects at Clarkson that we went over earlier tonight in resolutions. They also approved a $500,000 loan to continue the renovation project at the Newell Building. I'm happy to report 8 North Country firms looked at participating or bidding on that project. 4 North Country firms actually bid, and the firm that was awarded the low bid was a St. Lawrence County contractor. So the people who will be working at the project are all St. Lawrence County residents, and that'll be a shot in the arm for the area.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan. Recreational Trails Advisory Board, Mr. Arquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ironically enough, coming into the late spring and summer months, one of our biggest issues surrounds snowmobile trails. And I know all of my colleagues have received communications from different club members across the area. There's a feeling of inequity that exists. We're working hard to mitigate that. We've been meeting regularly. We will be meeting again this week to discuss possibilities and trying to resolve that situation. As well, we're working on the local law, which I will be pulling off or attempting to remove from the table under old new business. And maybe Rick has something further.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arquette.
Thank you.
The St. Lawrence River RVRDA, Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We met a few weeks ago The two items we moved forward that evening were extending a line of credit to Current Renewable. He has an existing line and did a draw on that. And also Atlantic Testing for a new drill rig. I believe it was 340,000, somewhere around there, to help Atlantic Testing out. The EIP applications have been received. I think the deadline was the 16th or 17th of April. Altogether, there's 15 applications totaling a little over 250,000 in request. We limit it, about 4 or 5 years ago, we limited it to 100,000 total. So we will start going through the application process and reviewing them and prioritizing them and things like that. Probably, I haven't heard from Patrick, but I imagine it'll be within the next couple of weeks. So moving along.
Thank you, Mr. Forsyth. Next up is St. Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce, Mrs. Haggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a thorough update from the chamber at our last meeting. Just two things I want to address. Several weeks ago, I believe Legislator Perkins asked me about whether they had looked into the possibility of getting retailers such as Bass Pro or Abu Garcia to come to the area. No surprise, our population and metrics do not meet. They have looked into that. We do not meet the criteria for that at this time. The other thing is this week, Thursday, they're having an event at the Indian Creek Nature Center in Rensselaer Falls. It's a networking and nature. It's kind of a walk and get to know people. It's only $5. It starts at 4:30 and I'll be there. So I encourage other people to come. A safe atmosphere, masks required, but we'll be outside. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Haggard. Soil and Water Conservation District Board of Directors, Mr. Burke.
The Canton USDA building that houses soil and water continues to be in phase 1 of the reopening plan, which now means 25% of the employees can be in the office at any point in time. No indication as to when this will change. They had their annual tree sale and it was successful. Most of the species were sold out 2 weeks before the order deadline, and the trees were scheduled to be ready for pickup April 15th and 16th. Soil and Water was approved to participate in a Northern Border grant through the Workforce Development Institute for funding a forestry intern that will work with Aaron, our county forester. Aaron has completed the assessments from last year's summer roadside tree surveys, and he has an email that's going out to the towns to share that results. The county forester also developed flyers to help promote the upcoming chainsaw safety course. And our technician has been working on ag values as requested by our farmers. And she's attending a number of trainings that will lead to her NRCS certification, which will provide a vital service to our agricultural community. At the meeting, they reviewed profit loss summaries, and we looked at staff evaluations, and it was clear to most of us on the board that the workforce is very talented, very dedicated, and they are serving the community very well. That's it, Kevin, unless you can think of something else.
No, Mr. Burke, that's very thorough. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to old and new business. We have a resolution that has been tabled, and that resolution is adopting proposed local law for the year 2021. A local law reestablishing the St. Lawrence County multi-use recreational trail system and establishing a trail permitting process. Mr. Arquette?
Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead.
I'd like to move to pull this from the table, remove this from the table, please.
Is there a second, Mr. Lightfoot and Mr. Denisha? Any discussion about, I guess there is no discussion about it. All those in favor of removing from the table, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We do have a substitute resolution, which I will read. Everyone should have it on their desk, or Ms. Kelly sent it to you at your Zoom address. And the resolution is adopting proposed local law A, no number yet on there, for the year 2021. A local law reestablishing the St. Lawrence County multi-use recreational trail system and establishing a trail permitting process. Who would like to move that? Mr. Arquette, seconded by Mr. Reagan, Mr. Denisha, and Mr. Perkins, and Ms. Curran. You get all those, Kelly?
And is that a motion to substitute?
Yes, that would be a motion to substitute, right, Mr. Arquette? Okay, and that was seconded by those people. Any discussion about the substitution? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
No discussion.
Now we open this up to discussion. Mr. Arquette.
Thank you, Kevin. There's many issues within this local law that supported a sustainable trail system. The reason we tabled this at the previous committee meeting was because we certainly heard the voice of our county residents and our enthusiasts in motorized recreation, and the lack of inclusion of the UTVs, the side-by-sides, was a major issue for the better part of that aforementioned population. So what we did was we introduced that into the local law. Just a little bit of history. The UTV, or the side-by-side as it's called, is viewed by many experts across the nation as the most popular motorized recreational vehicle that's out there. And we remain as the only state in the continental United States that doesn't allow the registration of these vehicles if they weigh above 1,000 pounds. Nearly probably 95% of the manufactured vehicles of that nature, if not more, do weigh over 1,000 pounds. So it's been a very difficult lobbying effort since at least 2007, 2008. Difficult because we're such a rural area up here, and we're really a good fit for not only motorized recreation, all outdoor recreation, which is why we have a multi-use trail, so that literally everybody who wants to enjoy recreation outside will be able to enjoy our trail. Probably one of the most frustrating things as well is the lawmakers in Albany that are defeating this are nowhere. They have no idea how well suited that we are here in the North Country and some of our other rural counties, for this particular hobby. And again, that's not the exclusive reason why we're moving forward with a local law, but that's an important part of it. Many times with our issues here in the county, and as I've just heard our administrator speak to many of the different issues, we look at other counties and we see what they're doing. In this case, Lewis County adopted a very similar local law in 2019. The folks that were involved in the trail system monitor it very carefully to see over a couple of year period what types of successes and failures that they had in our neighboring county. And it was easy to see after conversations with different branches of law enforcement and legal folks that their successes have overridden the downside greatly. Again, the reason we tabled, because there wasn't language on the UTV that is now incorporated into this. I know that when it was first rolled out, there was some consternation around, paying a trail fee. I just want to assure everybody that the trail fee is essential in moving forward and sustaining the trail. And that if you look around and research any of the areas that this type of recreation is widely used, such as New Hampshire, Maine, Michigan, they all incorporate trail passes. What we hope to do is increase mileage. We hope to sit down with landowners across our county that are so generous in allowing the usage of their private property for our recreational purpose to, make some longer term agreements with them, to make sure again that our largest priority in this investment is a long-term revenue generator for our county. So that's the basis of what we're doing with this local law. And I would strongly appreciate I would greatly appreciate all of my colleagues' support on this local law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arquette. Anyone else? Mr. Denisha.
Mr. Chairman, I concur with Legislator Arquette. One of the, I've had actually 3 phone calls, and I know we had one person, I think it was one person, perhaps 2, that alluded to it at the public hearing with the excessive noise. And Legislator Arquette and I talked about that. You get folks that, but it's with any endeavor, you're going to have a few bad apples that have the potential to destroy it for anyone. So, I fully support passage of this law. I also want to, I think we need to make sure that we get the word out that we're not going to accept behavior that's not within the law. We can't be harassing people, making their lives miserable. So, be respectful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Denisha. Anyone else? Mr. Smithers.
Yes, I would congratulate you on the changed wording to accommodate the UTVs. That's great. The question is, to be clear, where do snowmobiles fit into the definition of off-highway vehicles? Are they included or are they accepted from usage of this?
Mr. Arquette, can you answer that question?
There's a differentiation between the registration of the snowmobiles. They're currently able to be registered. Many of them are club members. So there's still some of the wrinkles that we're working out, and that's one of them right now.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Thank you. So I'm looking at the fees, Mr. Arquette, and they seem to pertain to OHVs. Do they also pertain to anything that's motorized, and is it solely for motorized permits? What about hiking and biking and horse riding and walking?
Again, there's in Lewis County, where I'm heading this weekend for their opening on May 1st, they require the pass for all ATVs and the side-by-sides, and our local law mirrors that, but that doesn't mean that it can't be amended, to make sure that the sustainability by way of a pass is spread across the entire usership. It's not identified at this point in the local law, but there is a lot of conversation about including it. As we know, that all laws, whether they're state, federal, or whatever, have the ability to be amended. And because of our season coming up, there was certain major parts of this local law that we wanted ready for our May 15th opening. But again, we're here. We continue to listen to what the people want, and I know I've had several calls on folks saying that they don't mind paying the trail pass at all, but they believe that everybody should. So as we work through issues like we're doing right now with snowmobile clubs, we'll be working through issues to make sure that our local law is a perfect fit for our county. But as for now, it mirrors a great deal of what Lewis County is doing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arquette. Anyone else? Mr. Forsyth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tony, do you have any idea how many in Lewis County, how many permits are issued?
I don't, but it's a great question, Dave. And actually, one of the reasons why I'm going to Lewis County, I've had some conversations with their trail people and their county clerk and taking a look, going to meet up and hopefully, hopefully bring back some answers. And that's being worked as well from some other folks involved in the trail process. But what I do know is it's been very successful there. They embrace it. And, I think, again, in the absence of all of the industry that we've lost here, it's something that we need to embrace. We have such a vast area of usership that it seems to definitely be the best fit. But I'll work on getting those numbers for you.
Another idea I just was thinking about the other day as I was riding mine was every dealership that sells these units, maybe they ought to encourage people by giving them a 1-year free membership to the ATV. Or to
That's
the club.
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great, and please feel free, legislators, the general public, we're wide open to all ideas that folks have. Again, we're in its infancy stages as far as this reestablishment. We've been working on the trails. Obviously, folks like yourself that have been around a long time know, there's been a great deal of effort put in for, a decade and a half on this. But, I think that we would actually be remiss if we tried to present this document as though it was the perfect situation until it's incorporated. Some of the major parts of what people are looking for is certainly part of this now, as it's written now, and that throughout the longevity of the process, we will certainly be open to suggestions on making amendments or changes to it that fit us here in St. Lawrence County.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Mr. Chambers, are you there for us? Don, have you made it home that you could answer some questions? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Mr. Chambers. It says under here that you will be the designee to authorize these permits and that the trail period is from May 15th through September 15th. Can you talk to us about how this is going to be administrated? Will it be this year that we're going to be ready, or what can you tell the legislative board about this process?
Actually, I can't tell you a lot about the process. I think that's yet to be developed.
Okay.
I have not had discussions with the county administrator on that topic.
Okay. Okay, so maybe I'll defer to the county attorney, Mr. Button.
I'd be happy to. Actually, if you'll note within the local law indicates that it is designated as the county highway superintendent or their designee. So the county highway superintendent does not necessarily have to administer the permitting process that's included in the local law. They may actually delegate that function to a designee to actually carry it out. In Lewis County, they actually created a position in their local law. It was known as the Director of Recreation and Trails position. Much of what was carried out there, though, was indicative of the very role that our county highway superintendent has been carrying out during the development of this trail system. As you know, we've been working on the development of the trail system now for more than a decade, actually close to a decade and a half. So really, we consolidated those functions under the highway superintendent. If your question is with relation to the collection of the fees, the issuance of the permits and the processing, at least in our initial discussions, I believe our intention was, in fact, to have the highway superintendent to designate someone who would carry out that function. As you know, we currently contract with an entity to render that type of service to us, who is answerable to the highway superintendent as part of the development of the trail system. So I believe, at least for our initial plans, it was to designate that individual to actually marshal the resources to begin the permitting process. But naturally, this will encompass interactions with the treasurer's office, most likely with the clerk's office, because if it occurs as is anticipated, there will be revenue generated from this matter that will have to be docketed and maintained separately so that it can be dedicated towards continuing trail maintenance and furtherance of the trail objectives.
Okay, that's a pretty serious task, that's for sure. Any other questions for concerning this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay. We have a need for an executive session.
We do, and I would request,
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Perkins.
Old new business? More old new business?
Oh, we got more old new business. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you. I was contacted by Tom Latimer, the president of the Town of Pierpont Veterans Memorial Fund. I think he sent a letter to everybody. They have constructed a memorial monument that features a series of walls that holds bricks showing individual veterans, their names, service date, and other information. The monument is located at the Pierpont Museum right now. The monument, the bricks, they have like 200 bricks in there right now for each person, but they have need for another 100. The weather is deteriorating the bricks. They need to construct a roof on it, but to do that, it's going to obstruct the view in the highway. So they're looking for a place to move that to, and there's a spot on the corner of 29 and 24 county routes. The northeast section is just under an acre that the county owns, and they were wondering if it was possible to move this monument there. They have people that go back to the Spanish-American War, the Civil War, and the American Revolution. And they'd like to keep this going. So he wanted me to talk to the board and see if that was something that the county would be interested in, giving them access or whatever possible means to put this monument there. But in other discussions, this parcel was also talked about as being a parking destination for the trails. But as was noted to me, that might be a great place to have the parking come in, but a great place for visibility for the monument as well. So I was just looking for feedback on this.
Would you like to comment, Mrs. Doyle?
I would recommend, with the request coming in, that we be provided the opportunity to gather some information and bring that to a meeting next month so that the board can make an informed decision about how it's like to proceed.
Everybody on board with that? It seems affirmative, yes.
Okay, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Next up is our executive session. Ms. Doyle, what do we have need for?
We have a need for negotiations with regard to the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition of securities or sale or exchange of securities by held by such public body, but only when publicity would substantially affect the value thereof. That item, as well as litigation, as well as appointments.
Okay, thank you. We entertain a motion. Mr. Forsyth, motion to go into executive, seconded by Mr. Sheridan and Mr. Lightfoot. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
And might I also request that Superintendent Chambers join us for that executive session.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chambers, we'll be needing your services.
Thank you.
It's already voted on, so.
Well,
Need
an
a few
objection
minutes.
could be raised. Yeah.
I know that discussion.
Are you guys meeting?
We're back in open session.
Okay. So we're back in open session. I think Ruth would like to make
Yeah,
some comments.
just one mention. Chair Sheridan and I were invited to meet with the city of Ogdensburg. That's been scheduled this Thursday at 1 o'clock. They were interested, I believe, in showing us some of the projects they're working on and having a discussion about that.
Any comments for their county administrator? Okay, seeing none. Anything else?
Nope, no, sir.
Anyone else have anything? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. We have to do the
Nope,
appointments?
nope, not till the board meeting.
Not till the board meeting. Thank you. I'm always confused at that. Rick Perkins has made a motion to adjourn along with second by Mr. Smithers. All in favor, signify by saying